Hi there, I'm Angus Scott. I'm a professional voiceover artist and a presenter, and I don't normally wear kit like this, but I do for fun projects, which this one hopefully is, because I'm lucky enough to, well, up until now, I've been using my own home studio to produce a reasonably professional quality material. But through a lot of hard work and luck, I suppose, I'm now in the lucky position of being able to build my own more commercially minded studio. So over the years, I've watched many home studio and commercial studio builds on YouTube and the like. And I've always had the dream of building my own, and now finally I'm at the position of being able to do that with a decent budget. Very little expertise, I have to say, other than from what I've learned from YouTube and a bit of input from one or two professionals. And I thought, why not share it with the world and share my ups and downs of the studio build with you guys over the next series of videos, however they may be. I hope by the end of it, I will have a commercial studio, or not, who knows. So I'll show you around. So we moved to the beautiful county of Norfolk in East Anglia in the east of England. And when we moved to this area, the criteria was pretty simple. We obviously had to find somewhere to live for the family, but also to find a building that we could convert, or an area that we can convert into a recording studio and a film studio. Well, just through a huge stroke of luck and a quirk of fate and the way things fell, we ended up with this fabulous property in the countryside. We're about 30-40 yards off a rural road that does carry a little bit of traffic, but otherwise on a nice plot. And on the plot was this fabulous timber-framed barn that's 10 metres by 10 metres, so about 100 square metres. That's about just over 1,000 square feet, with a good high eaves height of about 12.5, 13 feet. And it's this building that we are now converting into a recording studio, a control room, stroke mixing room, and a good area for filming. I'll show you the other side of it. So here we are at the back of the studio. Now the back of the studio is going to be something slightly different. The plan is where that white canopy is going across, underneath that's actually where the mixing room, the control room is going to be, and we're going to put full width bifold doors. Now, a bad idea acoustically speaking, that's a very large reflective surface. The reason actually we've gone for that is it was a balance between acoustics, which we can mitigate against mental well-being. We're going to spend a lot of time. I'm going to be in there every day, all day, and the fact of not being able to see daylight every day of my life would do my head in. So we decided that we would put bifold doors in. The reason actually is because this view on this side is fabulous. It's across the fields. We're in a beautiful part of the country. It's also south facing, and here in England we don't actually get an awful lot of sunshine, and when we do, it's actually quite nice to be able to see the sun when it does make that rare appearance. So that's the back, and then this greyed out area here, this is actually where we've been weed killing. The plan here is also, it's just to make it a bit of a nice area. We're going to put what they call a gravel garden. My wife is more at that department. She's designing a beautiful gravel garden out here. And again, it's all about creating a bit of a nicer ambiance outside the studio. So as we come out in full summer, we can open the bifold doors and we're out straight into the countryside. So let's take a look inside. So, as you can see from this interior shot, the barn has almost one half already covered by a mezzanine floor, which did present both an advantage and a problem. The height is around 2.3 metres, that's just under 8 feet, a pretty standard domestic ceiling height, but also one that is acoustically horrible. But the budget didn't allow me to change this, so I've had to adapt the design to work with it. And from this second shot, you can see underneath that mezzanine. So, after endless revisions and rethinks, the final plan I settled on was to put the audio recording room and the mixing or control room under here, and use the full height larger area as the film studio. So, turning to a good old design friend SketchUp, you can see here the existing layout of the building, with the mezzanine there on the right hand side. Here we're looking at it from sort of the area where this photo was taken to give you an idea of how it looks. So the finalised plan is to separate the two halves of the building using the mezzanine as the dividing line. The audio recording studio is going on the north side, and as you can see from the plan, it's going to be a classic room within a room design, incorporating a decoupled stud wall room. Then in front of that will be the control room, or mixing room, whatever you want to call it. And as we saw a few seconds ago from the outside, the bifold doors are going to make up most of that south wall of the room. that far single door leaving the control room is actually going to run into a small corridor into the next door workshop, and there we're going to put a small kitchen and toilet facility. So you'll see here, there's going to be a double door between the control room and the audio room. Now, I had considered putting a window between the two, which is pretty traditional, but in the end I decided against that for two main reasons. The first was just simple cost. To reach a sufficient specification of materials and fitting it to meet acoustic needs, it was just going to add too much extra to the budget, where actually a simple camera and monitor system would work just as well for a fraction of the price. Secondly, as voiceover work particularly needs a very, very dry acoustic environment, I mean way more so than a music studio that still needs an element of liveliness in the room, the addition of a window just then adds a whole other layer of problems to treat acoustically that again would start blowing the budget to do it right. So the next part, which as far as the project's concerned I've called Phase 2, is the film studio, and this bit's going on the east side of the building, as you can see here, and will be built to the eaves height, which is around 12.5 feet. There's going to be no natural light in here, rather I'll be using a more controllable light environment with LED lighting. Now, the wish list for this area is again to have a room within a room concept for two main reasons. Firstly, because the building itself has a tin roof, which sounds like thunder when it rains, so some level of sound insulation is going to be needed. Secondly, I'm also planning on letting the room out as a rehearsal room for bands, and although we don't have any neighbours that are particularly close, we still felt some sound isolation may not be a bad idea if someone's doing their best Neil Peart impression and pounding on the drum kit. The big problem here is probably going to be cost, so I haven't yet budgeted out the double skin idea yet, so I'm leaving that decision until we actually reach Phase 2. So that's the idea in theory. Let's see how it's going to look in practice. So I've got no video of the interior before we started the build because the joiner turned up and actually worked so quickly, so he did it before I could even take some video of the place. But we're inside the barn here, and actually that is my cube with a K, K-U-B-E, my vocal cube that up until now, for the last few years, I've been doing all my voice recording. Of course, two of us squeeze in there when we do joint voiceovers. That's myself and my wife. And it's a little bit cozy, so hence part of the reason why we wanted to build a bigger recording studio for vocals as well. So on the video side, I have, well, up until now, I've been using my faithful green screen, which has followed us around when we've moved house. But as I've said, we're now looking at taking things up several notches. So how are we looking? Well, if we, let's walk up here and you can see immediately the stud walls. So we've got some big stud walls already coming in under the mezzanine. There you can see the mezzanine floor up there. Stud walls going in there, and that's the corridor down to what will become the main public entrance, should we call it. So there are going to be two rooms, as you've seen from the plans. This is going to be the mixing room, the control room, whatever you want to call it, and in that wall over there, that's where the bifold doors are going to go, right across that wall. So hopefully it's going to be a really nice working environment. And then of course lots of acoustic treatment in here to mitigate the obvious reflections from that. And then up in this room, the second room, which is just starting to take shape now, if I just work my way through all the debris, and then the lights out, and then the second room just the other side of here, which is just up here. This is going to be the audio recording room. I just call it the audio recording room. And this is going to be double skinned, so it's going to be a room within a room. And the construction is, these are all 6x4 timbers. So the outer walls are all 6x4s. The inner one is going to be 6x4, 6x2. Sorry, these are 6x2s. The inner wall is going to be 4x2s, so they're slightly thinner. The insulation, which has already been delivered, you see that mountain of insulation, that is the rock wool, that is RW3. Oh God, I mean, it depends who you read and what advice you read, what's best, but the compromise I reached was RW3. That was actually in consultation with the rock wool themselves. Just got a bit of advice from them as well. So yeah, the next phase of construction is to start putting in the plasterboard. Plasterboard arrives. I've got 71 sheets of acoustic plasterboard arriving in 2 days' time, ready for delivery. And I've got to try and work out space where the hell I'm going to put all that lot. So yeah, we move on. And that's the back of the big doors you've seen at the front. We'll just do a pan around. And there you can see the audio recording room on that side and the control room on this side. And then where I'm standing here is obviously going to be the film studio, the video studio, which will maintain the big doors to allow big equipment to come in. And then at this end wall, that door's going to be blocked off, that door there. And there's going to be a full height green screen, probably 12.5, 13 foot height green screen. And that's about 20 feet across, so it'll be a 20-foot width, and then deep, probably about 10 to 12 feet deep green screen. So of course in the design there's all the little details that need to be worked out, and that includes of course things like fire safety. And as I am expecting to have members of the public coming in and out, I do need to consider all the various regulations, one of which of course is the emergency lighting. Now fortunately this place was used for other purposes before we arrived, so there is a lot of emergency lighting already in place, but of course I'm having to adapt that to my uses. So for example, in this doorway, this is exiting the recording area, the audio recording room. So we'll be installing these proper regulated or regulatory compliant emergency lighting units. In terms of the construction, probably a good opportunity to take a look at the construction as well in a bit more detail. So most of the walls here, these are the 6x2s. And the plan is, on the outer skins, it's going to have one layer of 15mm acoustic plasterboard. So that's going to be coming here. And look at some of these walls, for example. So of course, it's fairly standard stud work using 6x2s. So 15mm acoustic plasterboard on the outside, 100mm of the RW3 rock wool. And then for the audio recording room, there's going to be a 50mm cavity, just an air cavity. And then this 4x2 next stud wall, the inner stud wall, that will be completely decoupled from the outer wall, except the floor. It'll still be attached to the floor. But this 4x2 inner wall will have, again, another 100mm of RW3 inside that. So the internal walls will be 15mm of acoustic plasterboard, green glue, and another layer of 15mm acoustic plasterboard. So hopefully that's going to be enough to certainly remove most of the ambient noise. Not that there is a lot around here. Now, no build would be complete without its own major fuck up, and I did make a major fuck up last weekend when the joiner was here, and he cracked on so quickly. He did way more than I expected him to complete in that first day, and he's put down this first layer of stud work. And we had actually previously agreed to have a raised floor in the control room, particularly so I could run cables from here in the audio recording room through under the floor and up into where the desk area, the control desk, is going to be. Unfortunately, because he cracked on so quickly, we didn't really have that discussion in more detail on the day. And I said at the end of the day when he'd finished, he said, "Great job, thanks very much." And I said, "Oh, so we can put the floor in retrospectively?" And he went, "Oh." Because unfortunately he's built this is my fault, not his. We've got the headers of the doorways too low now. This assumes there is no raised floor. So that basically means now I can't put a raised floor in without doing some more woodwork. So I've now got this decision: do I get the poor joiner to change the doorways so I can put in a raised floor and thus allow me to run cables underneath, make it neater, or actually, as the electrician suggested, one other option is we do leave the floor it is. It's actually a really nicely skimmed concrete floor, above which the flooring is planned to be this LVT stuff, which is, it's probably 20mm or whatever, plus insulation. But actually just dig a channel, dig some trunking through the concrete from the external wall under the flooring so I can then pop it up. So that may be the solution. But, it's a fuck up. It happens. We'll find a way around it. So there you go, that's end of part one. I've got the joiner coming in again in about 3 days' time to do 2 more days' work, and hopefully by then we'll start laying some plasterboard, putting some of the insulation in. The electrician's been to do his quick overview, and he'll start laying some wires. I've also got all the cabling to run between the 2 rooms, the control room and the recording room. So yeah, it's all a little bit seat of the pants stuff, but it wouldn't be fun otherwise. See you in the next video.